All right. Well, here I am again, and I will be alone now because I am re-recording my the course or the class from last night because I actually forgot to put the record on. So I'm going to run through everything or try to run through everything that I went through last night with you guys. In a way, it's good because I was able to, with the students that showed up, and I want to thank you for coming, I was able to determine that there was a good bit of things that I went over through the course of my live session last night that you guys probably didn't know about. So it's good. It's always good when you have something that you're showing people that is new to them. So that makes me feel good. So I again, accidentally didn't record last night, so I'm back to record it today. So I'm going to start off pretty much where I started off last night, and that is in just giving a little bit of a brief rundown on the project assignment and then the assessment. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to show you as much as I can as to how I did both. And the reason that I'm doing it is not so much because I want you to copy what I'm doing as far as, you know, creating the business card, letterhead, envelope, and the logo and all that stuff. But I'm showing you the steps that it takes to actually do this project correctly with your logo. Creating your own business card, creating your own envelope, your own letterhead. And then I have a very interesting thing at the end I'm going to do, which is to show you how to use Adobe Illustrator to generate 3D mock-ups. And if you were here last night, you saw all this, and it was very interesting, and I believe kind of new for a lot of people. So, okay, so let's go. The week 4 project. You're going to go in, you're going to refine your logo. You submitted logos to me. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to find the logo that you think is most appropriate. And then what you're going to do is design or consider how you can maintain the message consistency. You're going to consider things such as typeface, type style, color, logo, composition, and layout. You're going to implement and create a color scheme for your logo that will use at least 2 colors, and black. And again, as I mentioned last night, white is really not a color. White is more or less the absence of color. So they mention white here, but think in terms of, as far as layout is concerned, how does white factor into it? How does the actual page, the background, factor into it? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But black is a color, and black is a color you're going to definitely be using, so you would include black. And then you could use at least 2 colors with that. Again, you could go black with a color, you could go 2 separate colors with black, making it 3 colors. It's up to you. Keep in mind that this project is going to be done in process color: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Okay, going to go through this as well in a little while, show you all about this. But the bottom line is you can use as many colors as you want, but you should use at least 2 colors, and one could be black and one could be another color, or 2 colors and then black, however you want to do it. I believe I went with 2 colors, one being black and one being a second color, and that would be okay. And I'll show you more about that too. So once you've created or completed your logo, what you're going to do is you're going to build a usage guide. And the usage guide is the same thing that you did with the other assignment, where you're going to take your single logo and you're going to produce a booklet of sorts that's going to show the following things. And if you remember correctly, I sent you the Roto branding, and as a matter of fact, it's right here. I sent you the Roto branding manual, brand style guide. And I gave you this because I wanted you to have something kind of to shoot for. I thought this would be a good way of giving you an idea of what it is that, you know, you're going to do to create something. And again, what I'm trying to do is show you how to approach this so that you have a guide, so to speak, but you also keep in mind, are looking to create pieces for portfolio. And if you really are motivated to do it, this style guide is done well enough that if you followed along with it and did something similar to this, you'd end up with a piece that would be pretty nice for your portfolio. So really, I mean, it's up to you how far you want to go with this. I am giving it to you because I think it's very helpful. I happen to have it as a PDF. I have 2 other style guides here for other companies I work for. One of them was Vonage, but I don't have them as PDF. So this is the only one I have, this PDF, and it's good enough, I think, to get you by. So basically, go back to this for a second. The elements that you're going to include will be a title bar with your name and your business name, if applicable, a logo in black and white. Do not use any tints less than 100%. So they just want one in black and white, and then one in logo, one logo in grayscale, which can have grays in it. Okay. And I mean, I'm going to show you these things in this Rhoda manual shortly. Color swatches. This is very important. Color swatches and keys showing the CMYK callouts. Color swatches and keys showing the RGB and hex code callouts. Very important that you put these things in there. Why? Because this is a guide. And what you're doing essentially is you're setting down the law, or you're setting down rules for all those who are going to follow you. These are going to be things that they're going to use to make sure that if 10 different people are working on the projects, they have the information that they need to make sure that the projects that they do, including all this branding element, look the same, so that 10 different people are producing something that could theoretically have come from one person. And these are the rules that you follow. The color logo shown in the following sizes: 1 inch, 3 inch, and 6 inches. So what you're showing here is, you know, what this logo is going to look like at 1 inch. What's it going to look like at 3 inches? What's it going to look like at 6 inches? And again, you did this 2 weeks ago, and most of you did it fairly well. But here's your chance to do it even better, because you do have the Roto branding guide to follow. Color in black and white logo shown on a dark background. Logo with safe zones outlined. I will discuss that in a little bit. Typography, overview of type used. Now, what they're talking about here is not necessarily the type in your logo itself. What they're talking about is when you go to create, like, perfect example, your business card, your envelope, and your letterhead. Those are 3 different pieces that you're going to produce using your logo. What type would you use? Are you going to use a sans serif font? Are you going to use a serif font? What people generally do when they create style guides like this is they decide on a serif font, which they will use for the company. And what they will do is they will make sure that all the work that they do that involves serif fonts are going to be in that font. In other words, you don't go in and just arbitrarily, when you create a booklet, you don't go in and arbitrarily grab any old serif font. If you're going to create a flyer, you're not going to just go in and arbitrarily grab any old serif font. There is a serif font that you choose for the company, and you put it into your manual and say, this is the serif font we want you to use. And you do the same with a sans serif font. Don't just go in every time you create a new project and pick a serif font. You're going to pick a particular serif font, which is the one that you are required to use. So if 15 people come in, you know that those 15 people will pick from, hopefully, I mean, not hopefully, because they will, obviously, because they're going to be showing it to other people who are going to say, is that our font? And if it's not, they're going to make you change it. So the bottom line is pick a serif font, pick a sans serif font, put it into your manual and say, this is the font I want you to use if you're using serif fonts. This is the font I want you to use if you were using sans serif fonts. All these things are important for you. I mean, when you create something like a branding manual, this is actually a very exciting thing to do. I mentioned this last night as well. When you create something like this, what you're doing is you're kind of laying down the law for all designers who follow you. And that's a big deal, because basically you're the designer and you're designing over them. You know, I mean, they're using your branding manual. So the more information you put into this thing, the better it is. Okay? You're going to lay this out in a cohesive, well designed or well organized manner in Adobe InDesign. Now, I actually don't do this part for you, but I do supply you with the Roto branding manual, which I'm about to go into, and then you're going to submit it to me as a PDF. Now, again, as I say, you've done this before. 2 weeks ago, you did this for your first logo assignment, and you know, everybody did it. Everybody followed the instructions. Everybody basically had everything right. But now you have a chance to really do this well, since you've done it once before, and you have the Roto branding manual, okay, to follow. I'd like to see if you guys could do a much better job with it. So here's the Roto branding manual. I'm going to focus in on this for a little bit. So what does this thing do? Basically what this does is this starts off by showing you the logo, the preferred color version of the logo. Okay, not the old logo, but the preferred version of the color. These are the two colors that are preferred to use. This is the arrangement with the element, the symbol over here, and you can see that it's been sized very carefully to match the size of your Smile Lock, which is the actual name of the brand itself. And then what they've done is they've in a very small manner, tucked in by Roto, because it's Roto Medical. The device is Smile Lock, the logo's for Smile Lock, and that's the symbol showing the Smile Lock. Then it underneath says Brand Style Guide. So you're asked to do, in fact, you're asked to do a title bar with your name and your business name if applicable. So, I mean, you could do that, but what I would do is I would do something like this, where I would actually have my logo in a way that presents it exactly the way it should be used. And then underneath, just put Brand Style Guide version 1. That would be a good way to go. Okay, so that's why I'm showing you this, and you can see this is how they did it. And that's why I'm using this, because it gives you an idea of what a professional branding manual looks like. You know, this isn't something that I did. This is something somebody else did that I'm just using to help you understand the process and why this is important and what it should look like. So you have it, use it. That's the way I feel. All right, so that's page 1. And notice there's 9 pages. The assignment actually calls for 10 pages. So you don't have to have 10 pages, but this one actually is 9 pages. So you can see that, you know, it's not very unrealistic for them to ask you to do 10 pages to put this brand manual together. And if you organize it properly, you end up with about 9-10 pages. So it's actually pretty good. The next page is a table of content. And a table of content is just professional. It's simple as that. You don't have to have it. It's not asked for, but it's just professional. And all they do here with their table of content, very simple. You know, they just identify it as such, table of content. And they show that on page 3, they talk about the brand itself. And you could do something like that, because you could just invent, based on what they have here in the Roto style, the same thing that they're saying. That you could just adapt it to make it your own, okay? Talking a little bit more about your brand as opposed to what this brand Roto does. You can adapt this, no problem. And then, of course, at page 5, which is the brand itself, goes evidently page 3 and page 4. That's how it works, right? Logo usage goes from page 5 to page 8. And logo usage talks about the different ways that you can work with this logo. And then, of course, page 8 is color, and then typography, photography, and sample. I'm not exactly sure why they don't have I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why they don't have page numbers on this. But anyway, you can see what they're doing, basically. The brand, logo usage, color, typography, photography, and sample executions. So sample executions is something that you can consider. Photography, and actually there's another area, illustration. What that really means and what's not being covered in this particular branding manual. And maybe it's because this is a branding manual that's still in development. Maybe it's not complete. Maybe they haven't completed typography, photography, and sample executions. That could be why there's no page numbers on there. It could be still in development. Typography is important because, as I explained to you, typography is what you are telling the person who is using your brand styling manual what they can and can't use as far as types are concerned. I just went over that. Photography and illustration, I've seen branding manuals where they actually talk about the type of photography that is acceptable to the brand, and illustrations, the type of illustrations that are acceptable to the brand. So if somebody comes in and is a designer and they want to design an illustration, there are even guidelines and rules for what you can use as far as illustration is concerned. And they show examples. Don't do this, do this. So that's the kind of thing that could be there. Now, logo usage, obviously, we're going to go over that in a minute. Color, we're going to go over that in a minute. Sample executions. When we get to sample executions, what they've done, and again, you don't have to do these things, but I just ask you to consider them because this is really what a brand manual does. It outlines the kind of things that are acceptable and the kind of things that are not acceptable. So sample executions show, and we'll get there in a minute, you'll see, sample executions show how this logo would be acceptable to be presented in any way and how it would not be acceptable, okay? So again, all these things are very important to a really cohesive brand style, and somebody who's a designer like you and me who are having the opportunity to do this, these are the kind of things that we consider. In fact, you should try to consider everything, because the more you consider, the more you put into your brand manual, the more you personally control it. And that means that basically, you know, you're the art director here. You're directing the whole thing. You're telling every other designer who follows you what they should and shouldn't be doing. And I don't know, I mean, how you feel about it, but to me, I think that's a huge deal. I mean, that's exciting to think that, you know, okay, I may die next week, but this branding manual will go on, and all these people will be following my orchestration, my rules. They'll be working underneath me, and I'm not even there. So, you know, again, I know I probably sound like a nut, but this is the kind of thing that you get into as you become a more and more, you know, experienced designer. All these things mean things to you, okay? So table of contents is something that you put in. It's just very professional, and it's a good part of the process, and I would consider doing it if I were you. Don't have to, not asked for, but I would consider it. So here's the brand identity page. So what it basically does is it talks about the brand itself. Now, I'm not going to get into all this explanations and stuff. All I want you to do is to take a few moments to read it and think about it. The brand identity itself. What it's telling you about is what this brand should identify. Maybe you might want to consider making a brand identity statement like this for your brand. And then, of course, the logo type and symbol. And what this does is it gives a paragraph or two. And you can see this is not a Bible. This is just like a paragraph talking about the brand identity itself. And here, the logo and symbol, 2 little paragraphs. But what it does is it talks about your thinking about your logo and the device that goes with the logo and why you did what you did. And then, of course, to support it, they present the preferred version of the logo, very much like I did on the first page. And all I'm trying to say to you is if you go through this brand manual, you see a very nice, clean, professional organization of your branding style guide. And that's what I would like to see you guys do. Come up with something that is clean and looks very professional. That's what I'm looking for, really, more than anything else. You guys did one the first time around. Take a look at what you did. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to be professional. I'm trying to be helpful. Take a look at the first one you did. Compare it to this and say to yourself, did I hit this mark? Did I get here? And if I didn't get here, can I possibly spend a little more time with it, and can I get here? Why? Because Bill will be impressed by it, number one, yes, but that's not really the most important thing. Because number 2 is, instead of impressing him, I will be impressing myself. I will be reaching for a higher level of work. I will be improving my overall design quality, and I will be perhaps producing something that I can use to put into a resume and perhaps get some work. And I'll tell you what, if you actually get a chance to do a branding manual like this, believe me when I tell you it's an exciting project, because you know that every designer that follows you will be using this brand manual, and they will be working from your guide, and it will be doing your work. They'll be doing your bidding, essentially. All right. Page 3, page 4. Now, free space. I talked about this in here. Let me go back for a second. Logo with safe zone outline. See what they're talking about here? I went over this last night with oops, wrong one. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, logo with safe zone outline. That's number 9. Okay, so what's going on here? Free space. To ensure adequate, I'm going to go over this one a little bit longer because this is something I want to make sure you understand, because there were questions about this last night. To ensure adequate clarity and visual impact, the logo should always be surrounded, listen to this, by at least the amount of clear space shown in the diagram below. What that means essentially is you don't want to strangle the logo. Strangling the logo means that you bring elements right up to the logo at the top or at the bottom, to the right, to the left. What you want to do is you want to leave clearance for the logo so that it breathes, okay? I know it sounds crazy, but it's not crazy, because the logo is an important element, and it stands out, and it is a symbol of the overall brand. It's a symbol of the overall company. It's the symbol of any product that it's associated with. So there really should be some stand out quality to it. So that's what this is all about. So the rectangular box around the logo indicates the area that should be kept clear of visual elements. In most cases, allowing more clear space than the diagram shows will enhance the presence of the logo. So what they're saying is that this is the drop dead minimum, really. I mean, even if you have more space around it, all it does is make it better. So what's going on here is nothing more than just creating a frame and some straight lines, strategically positioned, one at the very top of the logo, one at the very bottom of the logo, the baseline. This is the height, okay, the cap height. And then, of course, to the end on either side. And then what they've done, just so that you understand this, is they've taken now X height is the X height of the logo type. What that means essentially is whatever font you're using. Now, again, you should really try to balance your symbol with your font. Your symbol should not be gigantic sitting next to your Smile Lock logo. It should be proportionately similar to the Smile Lock logo. In other words, your logo, the copy, should be similar in size to your symbol. Your symbol doesn't necessarily have to be huge. But if your symbol's bigger, what you would do is you would use the height of the symbol and the baseline of the symbol, okay? But what you're doing essentially is you're taking the minimum, which would be the size of a capital X. So if you took a capital X and instead of that S, there's an X there, what you would do is you would take the height of that X and you would put it from the very top of your ascender right here, all right? You would go up to the height of the X here. So that's that free space. You would put the X here, and you would put that space here, which is the height of that X off of the left, and the same here, the height of the X to the right here, and then down here you'd put the X beneath it, and you would give me that space beneath it. So that's really all it is. And it tells you right here, X equals the X height of the logo type. There's your logo type. There's the S. Just take an X of the same font and place it above it, place it below it, place it to the left of the overall logo, and place it to the right, and to make sure that you do not go any closer to that. So to do this, all you're doing is creating a frame, and the frame is going to be made in gray, a light line in gray, and it's going to be turned into a dashed line using the stroke panel. That's it. And then to make sure that it's understandable, you just draw a straight line at the cap height, and draw and actually, because this has this lower biroto, you would go to the baseline, okay, and you would drag a line across the baseline, and then of course your X height would be from that point down, from that point up, and then of course go to the very edge of your symbol and give me a cap height over there. Come to the end of your logo, give me cap height there. So actually, and again, it is part of the assignment. I do want to see you do this. I just want you to know that this is not that difficult to figure out. It really isn't. It's just a matter of creating an X to the size of your type and positioning it above and below, left and right to your logo, and sort of framing it off. That's all there is. But it's a very important element, and the reason it's important is explained right here. And again, you know, you could easily just put in free space, and you could literally copy this copy almost verbatim, and then of course put the X height of the logo type. That would explain what you're doing. Okay, so again, I'm giving you this branding manual because it does relate so closely to what you're doing, and it does give you the opportunity to better understand the process of what you're doing, and even maybe copy some aspects of it so that you end up with something really nice. So I hope you use it, and I hope you appreciate what I'm saying here. And I'm not just trying to be a fusspot and make this thing horrible for you. I'm actually trying to make you understand that this is something that's fun and challenging, and in the end, very valuable for you as a designer, because you will be the designer who did this. Not everybody else will be able to just come in and do whatever they want to do. They will follow you. And that's a really cool thing. At least it is to me. Okay, so now this sort of goes into, go back to the assignment here, this goes into the area up here where you got the logo in black and white, and a logo in grayscale, color swatches. Well, we haven't reached that point yet. Black and white logo in the following sizes. Okay, now they didn't quite do that, but what they did do was they showed you the approved logo and the logo mark. The logos are used in 3 colors. And there again, we talk about the logo and what you're doing. Here, the logos are in 3 colors. So you're going to be doing a logo in 3 colors, okay? So anyway, what color to use is dependent upon the background and the logo it will be seen on. So here, what's good about this is it gives you a pretty good demonstration of how a professional company handles that very same concept. Here you got a white background, okay? The Smile Lock, the preferred way to go is with the dark blue for the Smile Lock by Roto, and for the body of the symbol, and then that secondary aqua color for that little tip off the bottom of the symbol. Okay, so that's the preferred logo use. And here is the symbol use. If you were just going to use the symbol alone, which is interesting because what this is telling you, that it would be acceptable in certain instances to use the symbol alone. So you see, as a designer, I know all this. I know what they're telling me. I know what they're saying I can do. And they don't have to spell it out for me by them showing me this. I understand that these things are possible. But I also understand that if I'm going to do this, I need to use that symbol in that color, and I need that little tip in that color. Now, this is where they're using the background of that tip color, that aqua color. So what happens is, obviously, if you have an aqua background, white will stand off very nicely. Apparently, they tested this, and the black, or the blue, I should say, that dark blue, doesn't look quite as nice over this aqua. So what they've decided to do in this particular case is they've decided to go with an all-white presentation against the aqua background. And the same thing with the symbol here. The symbol just knocks out to totally white against that aqua background. Now, what they did is also very clever. They've said that you could probably find use for that nice blue color as a background. And if that's the case, what you're going to do is you're going to go with white, and you're going to be able to utilize that nice aqua color in the tip of the symbol. And again, here is the close-up of the symbol. It's in white with an aqua tip. It looks very clean, very professional, very smart. And this is, you know, again, I'm showing you how a professional style guide is done. And if you take a look at the assignment, I mean, there's nothing here, nothing that isn't here. It's all the same thing, really. It's handled slightly differently, but this is correct. I'm not saying this isn't correct, but this is the appropriate way to handle this. And if you guys were to do this way, I would be very happy, because, again, this was very professional, and it would make you look very professional. And, again, you may end up with something that when you move on to your final courses and you're prepared to, you know, graduate out of the school, you bring out this branding guide, and you're like, oh, the people who are going to be working with you are going to say, wow, what a beautiful branding guide you did. Yeah, well, it is because you followed the rules of a professional branding guide. Okay. So let's move on. I don't want to just keep beating this. Inappropriate uses. I talked about this. This is something that's kind of important for you. This is something you obviously don't have to do, but the reason that they do this is because there are people, believe it or not, there are designers who would do some of these things. Okay. And now, do not remove the arrow except from the logo mock-up, or do not remove the arrow except from the logo lockup. I don't know what that means. Anyway, what they're talking about, do not remove the arrow. I don't know what they're talking about, but what's happening here is you see the little tip at the end of that roto symbol? That's been removed. They're telling you don't do it. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense what they're saying. But you don't modify the logo by dropping that little symbol. Don't change the angle. What they don't want you to do is they don't want you to put this on an angle. And you know what? It makes perfect sense. It looks stupid that way. Okay? Don't change the color of the arrow accent. See, this is, again, believe it or not, since this artwork is a piece of vector art, it can be modified. And what they're doing basically is saying, these modifications are not acceptable. And it makes perfect sense. This one here, don't change the orientation of the mark. They've spun the mark around. It just doesn't work. Don't stretch or warp. I see this all the time. Students will accidentally distort things. Don't distort or warp. And there, again, perfect example. Don't scale the elements. See, what they did here was they left the symbol, or actually they made the symbol smaller or bigger, and they made the type smaller. So again, these are things they don't want you to do. Don't change the color of the logo type. This is not an acceptable presentation of color. That smile lock by Roto is not acceptable. Okay? Don't shadow things and don't outline things. So this just gives you a guide of what you can and can't do. Again, so that you're very thorough. Okay? This shows you what they would like you to use for gradations of color. The unfortunate thing about this is they did not give you percentages. If they were going to do this, what they should have done is they should have had the percentages, the tints here. So if this is like 50%, it should say 50%. If this is 30%, it should say 30%. What I guess they're saying here is that you can use percentages or tints, and these are general ranges. I would have, if it were me doing this, I would have put percentages in there and saying, you know, you can use these percentages, but try not to use unlimited percentages. I hope that even makes sense to you. In other words, basically just give as much information as you can. This tells you that tints are acceptable. I get that, but I think it should have probably been spelled out a little bit better. This is the one that is really important, the color panel or the color palette. This gives you an idea of the colors that Roto chose for their brand, what colors they want you as designers to be using. So you can use this guy right here. You can use this aqua here. This kind of steely grayish blue here is another color that is, they actually call this dark blue. So there's 60% dark blue, 20% turquoise blue, which is that guy right there, 10% what they call steel blue. There's your steel blue right there. And then this 10% light green. So these don't really mean anything other than to just give you names for it. So you know it's a dark blue. I don't even know what that 60% means. Makes no sense really. But so it's dark blue, turquoise blue, steel blue, and light green. Those are the colors that they chose. You're going to be, and go back to your sample here. It says here, color swatches, showing key, and then even up here, implement a color scheme. Okay, so this is what they did. They've implemented a color scheme. They want you to do it, and they want you to show the swatches. So now we go back to the manual. This is what I want to see, either squares or circles or something that shows each color that you picked. You're going to have two colors in black and white. Okay, so what they did was they chose 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 colors. They did not include the black. That doesn't mean that they don't use the black, but I think what they try to do is I think they try to use the dark blue wherever possible because that's their brand color. But what they did was under each color, they have CMYK, RGB, and hex. So each one of these colors gets the numbers for CMYK. CMYK for that blue is 100% cyan, 87% magenta, 20% yellow, and 10% K or black. And the reason I know this is because I'm just going logically. It's C, M, Y, K. So that would have to mean that C is 100%, M is 87%, Y is 20%, and 10 is K. So what I'm trying to show you here is that all this does mean something. It's not just baloney. It means something. And in order for you to actually put this together well, and you can see they did a really nice job laying this out and putting the information in there, that's what I'm looking for you to do as well. Give me information, okay? That's 8. Here's 9. 9 is simply the Smile Lock logo by Roto. So if we go back up to 2, okay, go back up to page 2, you can see that photography and typography and sample executions apparently have not been done yet. That is what's going on here. This is not a complete brand style guide. You would have typography showing what typography is the kind of typography. Now they are asking you to do that. Typography overview for type. I'd like to see you do that if you can. Come in here and show me what type. And again, just follow the form of this kind of branding style guide and show me what font you would allow me to use as a designer for sans serif font and what would you use for serif font. That's what I would like to see. And that would be it. If you do that, you'll have a really nice style guide and I will be happy. Okay? I hope that's a good explanation of this particular part of the assignment. Okay, so I'm going to shut this out right now because I want to move on. Anyway, when you're all done with this, what you're going to do is you're going to send me a multi-page PDF on this. Again, you've done this already, so it shouldn't be something that's completely strange to you. So I'm going to move on to my assignment. I got a lot of stuff to show you here tonight, so I'm going to go through this. Let's see here, where do I want to start here? Implementing. Yeah, here we go. This is the one. I was in the right place, actually. Okay, so here's what we're going to do tonight. What I'm going to do tonight, my work, is to show you how to prepare to create a business card, a letterhead, and an envelope. I'm going to show you how to prepare your final logo and export it so that it can be used in an InDesign layout for a business card, letterhead, and envelope. Okay, the business card will have a logo, phone number, web address, email address, mailing address. Your letterhead or your stationery will have a logo, phone number, web address, email address, and mailing address. And your envelope will have simply a logo and a return address. Now, what we are going to do is we're going to establish a look for these 3 elements. Okay, it's going to be in CMYK because that's what it's asking for with correct bleeds. Show you how to do that. It's not a problem. And then what we're going to do is, let's see where the other part is. Logo. Here we go. Let's see. Where is it? Creating a self-design from websites. Sure. Where is that other part for creating the, oh, here we go. Okay, so when you are finished, you will submit your flat file, which is your Adobe InDesign file, either as a PDF. You can either submit it as a PDF, okay, and I'll show you how to do that. A PDF, or you can package it. PDF is fine. I'll show you how to do it. And then the other thing is you're going to do a mock-up, and the mock-up is in Adobe Illustrator of your envelope, letterhead, and stationery. So let me go first quickly here and show you the mock-up. So first of all, here's my logo. I'm going to show you how to finish this logo off, and I'm going to show you how to export it, both as an EPS file and a PDF file. And then I'm going to take it into InDesign. I'm going to produce the card and the letter and the envelope. Then I'm going to show you how to create the mock-ups. These are the mock-ups. There's your business card mock-up. I'm going to show you how to create that business card mock-up using Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to show you how to do the letterhead mock-up in Adobe Illustrator. This is done with 3D. And then I'm going to show you how to do the envelope in 3D. So I'm going to show you how to do all 3 of these pieces in Adobe Illustrator, mocking them up from your digital identity, which is going to be coming from your digital identity. Let me go to the View menu, and let's go to Display Performance, High Quality Display. Here's my business card. I know it's not the most beautiful business card, but it is a business card, and that's all that matters for me for demonstration. Here's my letterhead view, fit page and window. There's my letterhead, and then here's my envelope. There's my envelope. I'm going to show you how to create that in Adobe InDesign, okay? So before we do that, I'm going to come into here, and we're going to finish preparing our logo. So as you can see here, I have my colors, and I have two colors in here. I got this Pantone blue color, and I got this gray color. So I decided that instead of having three colors, I was just going to go with one color. I did factor in a second color, but decided against it. I didn't think I wanted to use the second color. I created the color because it asked for two colors, but I didn't in the end use it. I decided to go with the gray. Now, the important thing I want you to take note of here is that in the lower corner of each of these two colors, there is that white clipped area, and you'll notice that there is no spot on it. So that means if I double click on this thing, okay, I get my swatch options, and the color type is process color. That's what's important, is that this says process color. Now, here is my RGB color. If I want to get my color numbers for my, let's say I want to create my branding manual, there's my color numbers right there. The R is 135, the G is 135, and the B is 135. Why? Because it's gray. And when you line everything up, you get gray. And that's just the way it works. If I want to go in here, and if I want to go and get my CMYK, there's my CMYK. My CMYK for that gray is 49.5. My M is 41.28. My Y is 41.24. And my K is 5.13. And I'm going to also be able to get my WebSafe RGB. Well, actually, I can't get it in here. Okay, so hit cancel. But I can get my colors from there, or what I can do is I can click on this. Okay, you see how that color goes in there? I can double click that, and there's my hexadecimal number right there, 87, 87, 87. Hit cancel. So really, and by the way, just for the heck of it, let me just point out that I can also get my RGB, 135, 135, 135. There's my CMYK 50, 41, 41, 5. So I can get my numbers right here, or I can get them right here. Whoopsie daisy, I can get them right there. There we go. So you really should have no trouble getting your colors once you have your logo done. But make sure, this is important, please try to understand this. Make sure that the colors that you choose end up being CMYK colors. And I can tell they're CMYK colors because the corner has that little clip in there. If they were a spot color, this is what you would see. You would see the little spot there. And I don't want that. I can't have that, because that would mean that that has to print on its own plate, and that would cost extra money, and your customer would end up paying, and you would not be very professional. So you're going to make sure that's not there by coming in and changing this to process color, hitting OK, and making sure that the corner clips like that, but you do not see spot colors. I'm pretty sure that that should do it. All right, so now I got that done. My colors are good. Now I have a couple of elements on here that I also want to control. I talked about this last night, talk about it again. When I click on that frame that I created, you can see that there is no fill, but that it's a stroke. So the problem with this is that I can come up here very easily and I can change the stroke weight. Watch. See, I can change the stroke weight, and I don't want that. I want it to be 7. That's the weight I chose, 7, and I want it to stay like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this from being a stroke. I'm going to go to the Object menu, and I'm going to go to Path, and I'm going to go to Outline Stroke. I've done this before on other things, but I just wanted to show you this because I want you to understand that as a designer, you can control a lot of things within the context of Adobe Illustrator to make your art relatively permanent. So now instead of this thing being a stroke, I have actually a graphic shape. And that weight is going to be preserved from this point forward, okay? Now, the other thing I have here is I have an underline here. okay? And this underline essentially means that this is live text. So if I wanted to, I could come in here and I could change that font, all right? Let me see if I can get this thing to drop down. Why all of a sudden it's not? There we go. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Please don't do this to me. Okay, here we go. Myriad Pro. I could come in here, Franklin Gothic Heavy. Oops! That's not what I want. Okay? So my point is that, let's go Edit Undo. Okay? And let's close this. I don't want anybody coming in and changing this. So what I do is go to the Type menu, and I go Create Outlines. And now that font, I can do things to it. I can modify it. I can change its color. I can do stuff like that. But I can't change the font. And that's what I want. So now I have a logo that basically is made up entirely of graphic shapes. These are all graphic shapes. It's no longer typed down here. This is no longer a stroke. This is just all graphic shapes. And I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call this my logo identity final, and I'm going to type in outline. Okay, so the whole thing's been outlined. Hit Save. Okay, and I have the colors correct. So the colors are correct. The situation with all the elements are correct. I'm ready to export this piece of art into 2 different formats that I can use to create anything. I can create anything I want with them, okay? The only thing I have to do is, if I'm going to be doing something for the web, I would have to go up here and make adjustments to my color, but we're not dealing with that tonight. What we're dealing with is print. So the colors are in CMYK, and they're appropriate colors for what I'm about to do, so that's good. This is ready to go. I am going to come into the File menu, and I'm going to go Save As. And when I get into the Save As dialog box, I have a folder I did on my desktop. It's called Cards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the Save As type, all right? And I'm going to drop this down, and there are 2 choices in here that I can use. The first choice is Adobe PDF. The second choice is Illustrator EPS, Encapsulated PostScript. Both of these files are perfect for use in print. So I'm going to start off by choosing the PDF, and the PDF dialog box, hit Save. I'm going to actually call this, instead of Outline, I'm going to call this Final, no, I think I will leave it Outline, and hit Save. Okay, now I get my PDF. Now here's what we have here, Adobe PDF presets. It's set to Illustrator default. What I probably want to do with this is, because this thing is going to, there are different settings in here. You have smallest file size, high quality print, and press quality. High quality print is generally what you would use if you're going to be printing this thing off of a color copier like at a Kinko's or a Staples. Obviously, smallest file size is something going to be downloaded from the web. The one that you want is press quality. Now watch what happens when I click on press quality. I get this description in here, and the description says, use this setting to create Adobe PDF documents best suited for high quality pre-press printing. Okay, bingo, right there. That is the kicker right there. That's what you're looking for, high quality pre-press printing. That's what we're talking about. High quality pre-press printing is process printing or CMYK printing. So this setting, press quality, would be acceptable for that. Okay, now your printer could give you a different setting to use, and you could go in and you could put that setting in very easily by just going into the presets and putting the presets in, or messing with the standards and the compatibility. But you don't necessarily need to do that, because more than likely a high quality pre-press printing setting like this would be acceptable for your printer. And I just want you to understand this. Okay, this is an important point for you to understand. This is part of the learning. The other thing is preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. What that means essentially is that this PDF that I'm creating would be able to be returned back to an Adobe Illustrator file, and you could go in and modify this. If I deselected this, it would flatten the file in a way that would not enable me to go back in and play around with its vector capacity in Illustrator. So you do that if you don't want somebody, in other words, if you want to further limit people's ability to mess with this, you would deselect this. I'm going to leave it alone because I don't have to change it. I just wanted you to know what that means, okay? And then I'm going to hit Save PDF, and now if I go into my card file, see, there's my PDF right there. That's what I just created, Adobe Acrobat document. That document will go into my InDesign file, into my stationery, okay? No problem. Next one, File, Save As again. And I'm going to change this down to EPS. And again, I'm just going to hit Save, and EPS comes up. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, why do we worry about this? The only reason that we're worrying about this is because this is a teaching situation. And I figure the best thing for me to do is to explain to you what your choices are. Both of these choices, you know, they have their own unique capabilities, but either one of them in all reality is a good choice. And I just want you to know as a graphic designer that you have two choices, and it's very important for you to know this. So that's why I'm covering it. We're talking about printing a project. You should know what your choices are. So a couple of things you might want to know about here. I talked about this last night. There are different versions of Adobe Illustrator out there. Not everybody is going to have CC EPS. If it turns out that, let's say, somebody you're working with has access only to an Illustrator CS5 file, you might want to, you know, save this as an Illustrator CS5 file as opposed to the CC EPS file. That is not an issue for us, so I'm just going to get out of there. The only other thing you might want to consider is, obviously, you don't want to mess with this. Leave it alone as a TIFF 8-bit color. That's fine. But you can either have this with a transparent background or an opaque background. Generally, what I do is I generally leave everything transparent. I don't use the opaque. I mean, you notice that the transparent is set by default. I generally leave that alone. You can make it opaque. If it's opaque, what happens is the white area actually is given a white area. But transparent, the white area is transparent. It's like the black and the gray are printed on a sheet of glass, okay, transparent. So I just generally leave that alone, but you should know what that means, and you have that choice. The other thing is options to embed the fonts. Now, I very carefully went in there and I outlined those fonts. So you don't even need this option, okay? So I'm going to deselect that because I no longer need it. That's the only thing that you might do in this circumstance. If you had live type in here, you would certainly not do that, okay? But since I don't, since I've turned this into outline, I can deselect that. And I just wanted you to know this. This is, you know, again, teaching you a little bit about how these things work. So I hit OK. So now what I have here is, see, it's writing it. I now have my final encapsulated postscript and my PDF. So there you go. Those two logos right there are the logos that I am going to be using to create my letterhead, envelope, and business card. Okay? So that's done. I'm done. I can shut this off. We'll get to this in a little bit. Now what we're going to do is, let me just put this, minimize this, and let me get this out of here because, well, actually I'm going to leave this open because I just want to refer back to this. Let me go up here. I want to refer to this right here. The business card, letterhead, and logo envelope. I want you to see as we go along what I'm putting into this. So here we are in Adobe InDesign, and I just went through the process of showing you this. But before I do this, I showed this last night, and I want to show it to you again. I just want you all to know that, you know, I practice what I preach. This is not a situation where I teach this stuff and I never do any of this stuff. What I'm showing you here, this is my good friend John Carino, who is also somebody I do work for. I call him a good friend because he is a client, yes, but he's a wonderful guy, and I enjoy his company. We go out to lunch all the time, We go to the range together. We both collect firearms, and we go to the range together, and we shoot with my son, and we have a great time together. I really love the guy. He's a great guy. But I'm helping him design cards for his business. And I've done two. This was the very first one I did. I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to go to Display Performance, High Quality Display. This is the card that I did for him. And instead of it being just a simple 2 by 3.5 card, this is a 7 by 2 3.5 card, okay? Because if we click on this thing, let me go to the artboard, you'll see it's actually 7 by 2. I'm sorry, 7 by 2. So it's 3.5 by 2 is what it is, okay? At any rate, this card folds like a book. So this would be the front panel. This is what the front of it would look like. And then this would be the back panel. And then if I go to the pages, this is what would be on the inside. Now let me go to the view menu and let's go to screen mode preview. And we're previewing what the actual card looks like. This card has just been delivered to him. It came out gorgeous. The card looks really great. He is absolutely thrilled with it. And as a matter of fact, see, again, this is no big deal, but it is exactly what we are working on in this assignment. So I thought this was something I could show you. At any rate, that's what the front looks like. That's what the back looks like. Now, after we did this card, I'm in the process right now of doing the same kind of a card for his Norwalk business. John and Leslie operate out of New Providence. John by himself has a second location up in Norwalk, Connecticut. Now, the real reason I'm showing you this is the card is essentially the same. I mean, if I go to the view menu and go to screen mode preview and go to the view menu and go to display performance high quality, the card is more or less the same. It has a front that's similar to the other one. It's got a back that's similar to the other one. The inside is, in fact, exactly the same. I believe there's like 1 or 2 words changed in the inside, but it's basically the same. The reason I'm bothering showing you this for 2 reasons is that you can see that I actually do cards. I do things like cards, and I do them exactly the way I'm explaining for you to do them. And I also wanted to show you one very important thing, and that is right here. Take a look at this logo. This is John's logo. It's basically a combination mark. You have some flat art here, and then you have some text. I want you to take a look at the other one. So here's Advanced Dentistry in New Providence. Now, because of the way the type works, because of the size of the line and the way the type works, we laid this thing out slightly differently than we did the Norwalk Dental Arts PC. So again, you'll notice that I'm using the corporate colors. I'm using a similar approach to the placement of the objects, but I'm using the same font. I'm using the same font weight, okay? But I actually modified the layout slightly because of the size of the lines of type and the way the type's set up, okay? So I just want to point these things out to you because this is all part of the branding of the product, how you approach making something look as similar as possible, or it looks like the same person did it. Now, in this case, I was the person who did it. But I just give you an idea from these 2 pieces, you know, that this is what I do. And I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk. I walk the walk. Here's exactly what we're doing, but for a real customer, okay? So I close these guys up. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually proceed to make our 3-piece set. Here it is, my 3-piece set, which is my business card, my letterhead, and my envelope. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to go to the File menu, create a new file, okay? New document. I get the new document dialog box, and I'm going to focus over here for a minute. All right. Now, what I want to do is I need 3 pieces. I need a business card, I need a envelope, and I need a letterhead. Now, the problem I have with this is I can create 3 pages, because right there I create 3 pages. And I can deselect facing pages so I could have 3 pages that stand side by side. And by the way, just so that you know, I want you to pay attention to facing pages. There should not be an X in the facing pages. In other words, there's your facing pages, a check mark. What you want to make sure that you do is if you see a check mark in facing pages, you want to make sure that you deselect that, make it go away, because you want 3 separate pages. You're going to make the pages 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches high, and you want the orientation to be portrait, not landscape, and you want 3 pages. That's all you need to know. Oh, and by the way, down here in the margin area, the margins are inside the page. I'll explain them when the page is done. And then the bleed and slug are the outside. I would put a bleed and slug on there anyway. Whoops, I shut it. Bleed and slug, I'd put a bleed and slug on it anyway. 0.125 IN equals 1/8 of an inch. So 1/8 of an inch, if you can vision in your mind 1/8 of an inch, pretty small little size, it's 0.125. So I'm going to have margins set to 0.125, and I'm going to have a bleed set to 0.125, okay? So that's kind of important for you to understand. Bleed is outside the trim area, and that's if any items go off the page, it goes to that trim area, okay? And then the slug area is an area for the printer. There are elements that we're going to be putting into this thing that the printer needs, so that's what that slug area is. So I'm going to make sure that my settings say all that. So it's like basically 8.5 by 11, orientation, portrait, no facing pages, and there are 3 pages. No columns. I got actually 1 column, okay, 1 column, no gutter. And then, of course, your margins, 125, your bleed, 125, slug, 0.5. And hit create. And here comes my new file. Notice that I'm going to call this file save as, and I'm going to call this STAT-bill, and I'm putting this in my card, so it's stationary bill. Hit save. Okay, there it is. I've actually saved that file. Now, the problem that I have right away is that these 3 pages, and here they are, you can see they're not facing, they're just individual pages. The problem is they're all 8.5 by 11, and I don't want all 3 8.5 by 11. In fact, I want the envelope to be 9 1/4 by 4 1/8. So I need to change that. My business card needs to be 3.5 inches wide by 2 inches high. So I need to change that. So how do I do that? All right, so I got 3 pages. The first one, I think I'll make my card the first one. So I make sure, see if you click on them, right? So I got my first one selected. I'm going to come over here, and there is my page tool right there. See it? Page tool. Click on the page tool, and you see what happens. My page changes, and I get these devices here which allows me to modify my page. Now, the easiest way to do this is not to drag it and modify it. The easiest way is to just come up here to the width and the height. But there's even an easier way to do this. And again, I'm all about making it easier for you, wherever possible. Okay. Now, again, I'm trying to teach you the proper way to think about this. So you look at what's available to you. I have a width and a height. I could change it there. But I also notice that this says letter. So what does that mean? That means that maybe if I drop this down, oh, look at that. I got postcard, envelope. Oh, envelope. What else? Letter, legal, tabloid, letter half, A5, 4, 3, 5. Business card. There we go. Business card. Look at that. So if I click on business card, automatically the thing goes to business card, and check it out. It's 3.5 by 2. Okay? Now, there's my business card. Now let's say, for instance, just for the heck of it, let's say that I was going to do John's card, and I need the business card to be twice as wide. Well, 3.5, if you double it, is what? 7. So watch this. I'm going to just come up here, and I'm going to type in 7 IN, and then I'm going to click on the 2, and look at that. It doubled it. That's how I made John's card. That's all there is. It was simple. So I'm just going to come in here and set it back to, actually, you know what? Let me just try this, see if this worked. Go back to business card. There you go. So I went back to business card, 3.5 by 2. Now that is set up to be a business card. That was not hard. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the third one. Okay, the third one, and again, I could come in here and I could type for the envelope 9.5, or I could type for the height 4.125, and I would get my envelope. But what would be just as easy, and I'm taking the extra time to show you this so that you understand some new stuff about this. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this and bring it down to where it says envelope. And look, 9.5, 4.125, and I have an envelope. There it is. It's just that simple. So now I have a card, and I have my letterhead, and I have my envelope. Let's go to the view menu, and let's fit page and window. There it is. Okay, now there's one other thing that I do want to get rid of here, and I did talk about this last night. What is showing here are the baseline grids. Now, a baseline grid is something that's kind of important if I'm doing brochures, books, or something like that. But when you're working on stationery, baseline grids are of little value. As a matter of fact, I'd go so far as to say they're actually no value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to go down to Grids and Guides, and I'm going to hide the baseline grid. Whoop, up, I screwed up. Go to the View menu, go to Grids and Guides, and hide Document Grid, View, Grids and Guides. I hit the wrong thing, and then hide baseline grid. Okay, so the baseline grid is gone. I don't really need it, okay? Now let's see if it's gone on all of them. It is gone on all of them, okay? So the baseline grid is no longer showing. I don't really need the baseline grid. I have my business card, my letterhead, and my envelope. Now I hope all of that is easy for you. Before we go on, I'm just going to briefly show you a couple of things, and that is there is your margin area. Okay, the purple line is like a margin, and generally what you want to do with the margin is you want to keep anything that does not bleed off the page inside that margin. You don't want to get close to this edge right here. That is the trim edge. So if something is going to bleed off the page, then the element has to go all the way over to that bleed. This out here is your slug area, and the slug area is for the printer. The elements that go to the printer are left in the slug area, okay? So those are just the things that we set, and each one of these documents have that. Let's go View, Fit, Page, and Window. You can see they all have it. This one has it as well. If I can get it to come in, there we go. All right, so let's go back to the card. All right, so what I'm going to do is let's go View, Zoom out. Oh, no, View, Zoom in. I'm sorry, wrong way. View, Zoom in. There we go. Okay, that's good enough. View, Zoom in. Let me go one more time. Okay, so there it is. Now, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to start building my card. I always start working with the card. That's just the way I do it. You can do it your way if you want, but I generally start with the card. So I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to go to Place, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my logo. This is the first thing. So again, remember what I told you. I have the choices. I either have the encapsulated PostScript file, or I have the Adobe Acrobat file. Now, last night I did the encapsulated PostScript file. I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go with the Acrobat file. So I click on the Acrobat file, and then I click Open. And what happens is my cursor gets loaded. You see the cursor gets loaded with this. And if I want, watch what I can do. I can click here in the corner, hold the Shift key down, and drag like that. And I've placed that logo at the size that I want. Last night, watch what I did. I'm going to go Edit, Undo. And watch, this is what I did last night. Watch. Okay, so you see what happened? That logo's big. So what happened is, by doing this, I have this logo. Now I have to resize this logo, okay? And I did that last night, but Control Z. But by doing it this way, by taking the cursor when it's loaded, placing it where you want, okay? Holding the mouse down, you'll see, holding the Shift key, Shift and drag, I can drag that logo out to a size proportionate to what I want it to appear like on my piece, saving myself a little bit of time and effort. Okay, there's my logo. That's how I believe I want my logo to look on my business card. Really simple. Keep in mind that everything that you put into Adobe InDesign has to have a frame around it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and get the Type tool. Okay, and this is set to Wingdings. And if I'm not mistaken, what I did was I chose Gotham. Okay, so I'm going to change my type style to Gotham. And right now I have it set to extra light. All right, and I did this last night. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to click and drag a frame over to here. Okay, and I have this set to 12/15. Right now, I'm not changing this. I will change this shortly, but right now, it's just 12/15. And if we come in here, so for my business card, I want my logo. That's already dealt with. phone number, web address, email address, and mailing address. They forgot one very important thing. They forgot your name. So we have to put our name on this. So let me go in here now, and let me start off by putting Bill Sweeney, okay, and then hit enter, and phone. I guess maybe colon would be good, and then 908-821 5033, okay, and 12-point type is a little bit too big. So actually, let me go to this line, and let's set this to 10-point. There we go, 10-point. So that's 12-point. That's 10-point. And again, I'm just roughing this in right now. I'm not really, I'm not really going nuts with this. I'm just kind of roughing it in. All right, so there's my phone number. That's the first thing. I guess my email would be the next thing, wrsdesign@yahoo.com. Notice that I'm not putting william.sweeney@independence.edu. I'm putting a business one in because this is a card for my business, not a card for my teaching. So, that's what's happening here. So let's see what else we got here. We got the logo, phone number, web address. I'm not putting the web address on mine. Email address and the mailing address. Okay, so I have to put a mailing address on this thing. So let's go back in here now, and let's go to the next line, and 356 Greenbrook Road, period, and then North Plainfield, comma, and where the heck is it? And J, lowercase, and J, comma, 07063. Okay, so there we have it. There is all of my information. Let's go to the view menu, and let's go to screen mode, and let's go to preview, and that's what the card looks like so far, okay? It's okay, but again, I don't have any formatting in here. Probably what I would do with this to make it a little bit better is I would come in here and I would add some better formatting to this, okay? I do like this font. I kind of like the font. So what I would do is I'd come in here with this and I would play around with this a little bit. Like, for instance, Gotham. Gotham has extra light, italic, light italic, medium, and bold. So I think what I would probably do is I would go medium for Bill Sweeney, okay? For the phone number, I probably would go bold because that would be my first line of communication, I would think. So I would go bold on that, okay? On this one, what I would probably do is, because I do kind of like this light, extra light, I think maybe what I would do is I would go on this one. Let's see, maybe extra light italic would be good. And then this here, unfortunately, I don't really have a light. I don't medium. I have to either go with the light italic, which I don't like. I don't think I want that to be italic, or medium. Let's go with medium. Yeah, see, and the medium is probably a little bit too harsh. Unless, yeah, see, I have to bring down the size. So actually, probably stay with the extra light on that. Okay, so there we have, and maybe the web address, maybe not good in the, maybe what we want is, let's try medium italic. See if that's a little bit better. Yeah, and you know what? Now that I think about it, this may seem a little kooky to you, but maybe what I would do is make that 9, just a little bit smaller. There we go. And then maybe what I would do is I would come in here like this, and I would go to the paragraph panel, okay? Paragraph panel. And because I have this selected and this is a new line, what I would do is I would add a little bit of space after. Now, what I'm doing is I'm adding a little space after the wrsdesign@yahoo.com so I could throw that address down a little bit, okay? Giving some breathing space between the top 3 lines and those bottom 2 lines. So the space after is located right here, and I'm just going to click on that to increase the space after. Do you see what it's doing? See how it's bringing it down? Okay, and actually, I think it's set to 125. You notice that the 3 is just higher than that line right there. I think I want to try to make it 135. Let's see if 135 brings that 3 down in line with that base. So let's go 1 and then 3, and let's see what we get. Not enough. It's going to be 1.4. Let's try 1.45. Let's try that. Now it's too low, so it's actually 1.40. 1.40. I know you think I'm crazy, but you see, I'm moving things around, trying to make this thing look good. That's what graphic designers do. Now, to me, I like this look. I think this look is probably pretty good. Okay, so there's my business card. So I'm going to go File, Save, and my business card is done. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to go back and take a look real quickly at the letterhead. So the letterhead and the logo or the envelope, basically what I do here, the logo, phone number, web address, email address, and mailing address. Okay, so what I would do with this is I would basically, since all this information is going to go on the letterhead, what I would do is I would copy it, edit, copy, okay? And then I would go into my layouts and I would get my letterhead and I'd go View, Fit Page and Window, and then I would go to my View menu and I would go to Display, Screen Mode, Normal, okay? And I'd go Edit, Paste, and then what I would do is I'd carefully just drag this thing up and I'd place it somewhere up in the upper corner like that. Now, all that information is exactly what I want, and I have it sitting pretty high up there. I'm actually going to move it up a tiny bit more. It's sitting pretty high up there. Now, what I like about doing this is this logo becomes a similar size and the type becomes a similar size to the card. So there's a consistency going on here, okay? Now, what I would do with the third one is rather simple. What I would do is I'd go Edit, Paste, okay? Move this into position here. Okay, now in this one, I don't need all this information. I do not need all this information. What I need is I need just my address. So I delete all that, and then I click on this and delete that, and now I have my go to the View menu. Let's go Fit Page and Window, and go View, Screen Mode, Preview. And there is my business card. If I want, I can play around with the positioning of this, but I'm running out of time and I don't want to do that. Okay, so basically this is done. I think you get the general idea, is that your business card is going to have your logo and this information on it in some fashion. You could work on your layout and make something more exciting than mine. I'm more here to show you how to go about this than I am to do a perfect job. Then the same thing here. You got your letterhead, you know, View, Fit, Page and Window. There's your letterhead. You got your logo and you got your information correctly placed up there. And then, of course, your envelope only gets the address, the return address and the logo. Okay. Now, I mean, again, I could go in and I could tweak this and tinker with these things. That's not important to me. What's most important to me is that, you know, I ultimately have this done. And I do. So now what I want to do is I want to save this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Save As, or let's actually export it, because this is what you're going to send to me. Let's go to Export. So I go to Export, and I'm going to choose Adobe PDF Print. Adobe PDF Print. Now what you're going to do is you're going to type in for your submission, you're going to type in, where is it? You're going to type in, obviously, where the heck is it? Here we go. Your DES0242 assignment for first and last name. That's what you're going to put in, okay? What I'm going to do for mine, just to make it easier, is I'm just going to call it Final Submission -1. Okay, Final Submission -1, and I'm going to save that. Now there is my, okay, now here's the thing that I want you to understand. You're going to leave this basically alone, but you're going to go into marks and bleeds. Note that all printers marks are selected. It's very important that you have all printers marks selected. So if it's like this, you're going to click on all printers marks. You're also going to include Use Document Bleed Settings, so you make sure that that is also selected, because that will give you bleeds of 1.125. And then also click on Include Slug Area. So what I want you to do is go into Marks and Bleeds and click on All Printers Marks and make sure that it may already be selected. If it is, leave them alone. If it's not selected, you select that, you select that, you select that, and you hit Export. And now your file is being exported. Okay? And there it is. When it comes up, you see what you get? You get your color bars up here. You get your crops and your bleeds. There's your bleeds. There are your crops. And there is your final piece, your final pieces, all ready to go to a printer. That's what your final submission should look like. And I'm going to close that. Now, what I want to do is, excuse me, I also want to get ready to do my mock-ups. So in order to do my mock-ups, what I want to do, instead of rebuilding this in Adobe Illustrator, I can do something very cool. I can export these things as JPEGs, and I can use them in my mock-ups, which is going to save me a lot of work. And you're going to like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the File menu, and I'm going to go to Export again. This time, I'm going to change it from Adobe PDF Print down to JPEG. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be Final Submission 1. I'm going to be exporting all three of these as JPEGs. I hope you understand that. Hit Save. So in the Export JPEG Export area of the dialog box, what you want to do is you want to make sure that all pages are selected, okay? And then you want to make sure that pages are also selected. So it should say pages there. It should be pages here, not spreads. Pages, okay? All pages, pages. That's what should be. And then the quality should be high. And the resolution, I'm only setting the resolution to 150. You could go higher, but 150 would be fine. And the color space should not be CMYK. It should be RGB. The reason that this is because in the end, you're going to probably send this thing into Behance, and since it's in Behance, it can be RGB. So export all pages as pages, high, 150 RGB. I hit export, and it's exporting the file. Okay, I'm waiting for it to happen. Oh, and by the way, there are no errors on this. I'm just checking to see there's no errors on this. It's a little late, but I did it. Anyway, close this down, go into my cards, and look it. I have Final Submission 1. Watch this. It's a JPEG file. If I double-click on it, watch what it is. It's my business card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the final submission to BUS-CRD, business card. The final submission, this one here, the next one, what is that one? I think that's the letterhead. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to change the name of that one to be LETR-HD, letterhead, and then Final Submission 3 or 13 is my envelope. I'm going to just change the name of that to ENVL, envelope. Okay, so now I have, and let me do this. Let me go into this, and let's create a new folder, and let me go Save. Okay. And let me take the digital identity. Oh, you know what? I'll probably leave it alone. I probably should leave this alone. Yeah, I'm going to leave it alone. Forget about that. Forget about that step. You don't even have to do that. It's not necessary. I'm going to leave it. There we go. Okay. All right. So now let's go into Adobe Illustrator. Actually, I'm going to close this because last night I had a little bit of a problem. Save changes. No. All right. So that's going to go. And now I have just Illustrator opened up. And there we go. This I think I'm done with. I'm going to close that. This I think I'm done with. I'm going to close that. Open up envelope. Okay, so now I have these three mock-ups right here. Last night I ran into a problem doing this. So what I'm going to do to avoid that problem is I'm going to shut these things down. And I'm going to show you how to create these. I'm going to create a new document. File, new document. I'm creating mock-ups. It's going to be a print file. It's going to be 11. Actually, it's going to be a web file. Let me see here. You know what? I'll leave it as a print file. It doesn't matter. I can modify it. So it's going to be set up landscape. I've decided that this is going to be landscape. So it's going to be 11 inches wide by a height of 8.5 landscape. One board, okay, for now. One board for now. And no bleed. I don't have to worry about that. Just hit create. And there it is. There's my first board. I'm going to file, save that, save as. I'm going to call this mockups. Mockup, mock-up, and I'm going to call it 1. Mock-up 1, okay, because I'm going to end up with 3 of them. All right, so there's mock-up 1, and hit OK. I'm not changing anything. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click. Now, notice that I have the fill set to white, and I have the stroke set to black, okay? And I'm going to click, and I'm going to set this thing to be a width of 3.5, and a height of 2, and hit OK. And there, look it, I got my business card. There's my business card. That is what I am trying to create, a business card. I don't want the line to be black. I want it to be a light gray. I want it to be there so it helps to identify the edge of the card because it is a mock-up. So I'm going to make it a light gray. So light gray stroke, something like, maybe a little darker. Right about there is good. Hit OK. Okay, so now watch when I deselect this. Okay, so I got a nice little gray line there and I got a white card. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to incorporate my business card into this. This is going to be my business card. I'm going to render this in 3D. And one of the things that I can do when I render this in 3D, and that may sound very intimidating to you, but I'm going to go through the process of how I did it and show you exactly how I did it. So you should be able to very easily copy what I did. Okay? So anyway, first thing I want to do is I want to go to my symbols panel. Now, the reason I want to go to my symbols panel is because I'm going to bring my mock-ups, my JPEGs that I created in Adobe InDesign. I'm going to bring them in, and we're going to use them as part of my mock-ups. And I'm going to use them as symbols. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of the symbols that are in here because I don't want them in here. I don't need any of them. I want them gone. So I go to the drop-down menu, and I go select all unused. And I hit the garbage can, and I delete all of them. So now I have no symbols in here. So what I want to do is I want to go File, Place. That's the first thing I want to do. And I want to get my business card first because that's the first one I'm working on, and I'm placing my business card. Okay? Now, I tried last night to just drag this into the symbols panel. I'm not going to do it because I'm running out of time. I can't just drag this in here. So what I have to do is instead is I have to turn this into a linked piece of art because right now it's not linked. Here's my links panel, and you go to the window menu and you find your links panel right here. There's your links panel, but I already have it out. There's my links panel. So I bring my links panel up here, okay, and you can see that the business card JPEG is in there linked. There is no little symbol over here, meaning it's linked. Now what I want to do is I want to link this thing, okay? So what I want to do with this is I actually link it. I want to embed it is what I want to do. It's linked. I want to embed it. So I make sure that it's highlighted. See, it's highlighted blue. And then I come to the drop-down menu, and I go to Embed Images, and that little icon comes up. And the moment that icon comes up, then that means that that is a linked file. Or not linked, but embedded. It's embedded. Now I can turn this thing into a symbol. If I tried to do this without embedding this, it wouldn't let me. So I've embedded it first. Now I go to my symbols panel, and I click on this, drag it, and drop it in. And I'm going to name it card. Okay? And I'm going to change it from movie clip to graphic only because I like doing that. You don't have to. You can go with either one. But I change it to graphic. So the name is card. It's graphic. I don't change any of this. I hit OK. There is my symbol. And notice that this no longer has the outline showing. It's got a little square in the center. That means that that's an instance. If I want, I can drag a bunch of these things out. Look, these are all instances. Okay? I'm going to get rid of all of these because I don't need any of them. This is my card. This is what I'm going to make my card out of. This is going to be the face of my card. Okay? So now all I got left to do is two things. Number one is I got to show you the appearance panel. You bring the appearance panel over here. So it's Window, Appearance. But I have the appearance panel. And why I have this appearance panel is because once I turn this into a 3D object, the ability to modify that 3D object appears in the appearance panel. I never go back up to the effect, and I never apply the effect again up here. I apply it one time, and I apply it, and then I go in and modify it in the appearance panel. So this is selected, okay? I go to Effect, I go to 3D, and I go Extrude and Bevel. Now, if I hit Preview, I get something that looks like that, which is not exactly what I want. I want something that looks more like a card, and I want the card to lay down. Now, you see this little icon here? I mean, I can drag this icon all over the place, and I can find a position that I want my card to be in, okay? And I can just work on this and work on it. Well, I've already done that. That's the whole point. I've already done that. And what I did was I came up with the numbers that I need to make the card lay down exactly the way I want. All the numbers that I'm going to use right here. I'm going to show you those numbers, and I'm going to show you how it snaps into position, and then you'll have those numbers, and you could just use those numbers. So for my mock-up card, the first number that I want here is a negative 132, okay? Negative 132 degrees. Then I'm going to select the second one, and you can see it moves. As I change these numbers, it moves. This one's going to be a negative 7. And like I said, I played with this until I found the numbers scheme that I wanted, all right? Now, the third one is just plain ordinary 9, not negative 9. So the three numbers I'm looking for are negative 132, negative 7, negative 9. Now, I have perspective. This doesn't have a very nice perspective. It looks kind of weird looking. So what I did with the perspective is I gave it a perspective angle of 40, and I felt that that made it look much nicer. The only thing I have left to do is adjust the extrude depth. Now, what is the extrude depth? You see the height of this thing? This thing looks more like a brick than it looks like a business card. Am I right? So what I want to do is I want to thin this thing out and make it look like it's paper. So I'm going to take the extrude depth all the way down to 2. And then I'm going to click back on perspective so I can see that happen. Now that, to me, looks like a pretty darn nice business card, okay? So there's my business card. That's all it took for me to turn this thing into a 3D business card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put the business card artwork onto that model by mapping it. There's my map art dialog box. Now I have my symbols in here, and right now the only symbol is the card. That's the one I'm going to use. But I have to get the right surface. Now I'm looking at this, and that I think is the bottom surface, because if you look very carefully, you can see that that top line there, this is the bottom surface. I don't want the bottom surface. And actually there's 16 surfaces in here, which is kind of a nightmare. But anyway, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the top surface. I'm pretty sure this is the top surface. Let me move this over just a bit. And I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to apply the card, and sure enough, that is the top surface. But it's all backwards. So now what I got to do is I got to get this thing in the right direction. Now fortunately, I can rotate this, and that partly fixes it, doesn't entirely fix it. Okay, but what I can also do is this. I can also drag this over like this, and then take this side and drag that side all the way over like that, and then I can drag this thing all the way over like that, and holy mackerel, look at that. I have a business card. Now, if I want to make that thing look even more like it's a 3D object, I click on Shade Artwork and hit OK, and hit OK, and deselect it, and that is all it takes to make a mock-up of my business card. Now I'm going to do the same thing very quickly to the, I'm going to save this. I'm going to go File, Save As. I'm going to save this as mock-up 1 AI. Okay, save. And now I'm going to go Save As again, File, Save As. And I'm going to call this mock-up 2, and this is going to be my letterhead 2. Actually, it's going to be my, I'll do the envelope first and hit OK. Okay, so now I got my mock-up 2, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to delete this on mock-up 2, and I'm going to come in here again, click on this, and this time I'm going to go for width 9.5, and the height is going to be 11. I'm sorry, no, 9.5 and 4.125, the envelope, 4.125. Okay, so 9.5 wide, 4.125, hit OK, and there is my envelope. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to move it into position here. The problem is that I'm running out of space, so I got to open this screen up a little bit. Let me open that screen up a little bit. Let me get the links out of the way, and let me get this thing out of the way as well. Let me get this thing over here. Now what I want to do is I want to make my artboard a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click on the artboard tool, and I'm just going to open up the width of my artboard a little bit so I have some more room to work with. There we go. I can do that real easy, just like that. So there's my envelope, the basic shape for my envelope. Notice that it has the same fill in the stroke because I haven't changed it. So this is ready to be turned into an envelope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the appearance panel over a little bit and click on this, and I'm going to go to Effect, 3D, and I'm going to go Extrude and Bevel again. Again, I could go in here, I could drag this thing around. I'm going to hit preview, and you could see it. Okay, but again, I have numbers. I'll make this easy for you. So for my envelope, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, again, I'm going to type in a negative sign, and I'm going to make it 132. Okay, and now click in the second one. And in the case of this envelope, if I'm not mistaken, yes, the numbers are exactly the same as the business card. The letterhead's different, but the envelope and the business card I use the same numbers on. So that means it's -7, and then this one here was just plain 8. Sorry, 9. The perspective, I did the exact same thing with the perspective. I gave it a perspective of 40. And then I also came down here and I set the extrude depth again to 2. So if I click on the perspective, you can now see what your envelope looks like. And it looks pretty much like an envelope. I mean, it's pretty good, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Map Art again. And notice again that it looks like I got the back surface of this, because if you take a look, it's lower than that top line right there. That's what you're looking for. So I've got 16 surfaces here. I'm just going to click to the next surface, and I believe, yep, it looks like it put me right up on the top surface. That should be the surface I'm looking for. I'm going to click, by the way, let me hit OK on this, and let me hit OK on this, and let me deselect this because I forgot one very important point. I got to bring in the item that I'm going to use on the surface of this envelope. So to do that, I go to the File menu, and I go to Place, and this time I'm going to come in and get the envelope art and hit Place, and then click, and there's my envelope art. And remember, as I told you, the envelope now needs to be linked. So with it selected, I'm going to come here and I'm going to embed it. Okay, so now it's no longer linked, it's embedded. Okay, I can then go to my Symbols panel, and the Symbols panel has the card in it still, because this is the file that I used to make the card, and I just got rid of the card. So that symbol's still in there, and I don't have a problem with that. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm going to drag and drop that in there. And I'm going to change this to envelope, ENVL. So now I have a symbol for card and envelope. Change it to a graphic and hit OK. And now this has a little plus sign in the center. It's a symbol. Delete that. All right. So I come back in here. This is where the appearance panel comes into play. If I click on my modified document, or my modified object, my 3D object, right here it says Extrude and Bevel. So if I click to edit it like it asks me to do, I can come in here and I can hit preview, and all of the settings that I've put in here are preserved. So I don't have to modify anything. All I want to do is I want to map art onto this. So I click Map Art, and I was here before, but I didn't have the symbol. So now I'm back with the symbol. So I go to my surface, which is Surface 2, and I come to my symbol, which is Envelope. And their envelope is in, but again, same problem. Envelopes are all backwards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the envelope, if I can get this thing, there we go, and I'm going to start off by flipping it and get it flipped like that. There we go. It's flipped, all right? And then I have to turn it around and get it. I don't know why this thing comes in backwards like this, but it's not the end of the world. It can be fixed, and that's what I'm showing you how to do right here. So there is my envelope. There it is. The envelope's on there. And if I want, I can hit Shade Artwork. and it'll take a minute for it to shade, and then I hit OK, and I hit OK, and I deselect it, and now I have my envelope. That's simple. This is not hard, is it? File, save as, okay? And on this one, I'm going to call this mockup 3 and hit save. So now mockup 3, okay? And mockup 3 is there, and I can delete this. All right, so now I have mockup 1, mockup 2, mockup 3. I'm working on mockup 3. Mockup 3 is the letterhead. So let me do this the correct way. Let me go File, Place, and let me go and get my letterhead and hit Place. Boom, there's my letterhead. Let me go View, Zoom Out. This is a problem because this is huge. Zoom out, this is big. So what I want to do is I want to start off by taking my symbol, place it on my page, and then I'm going to adjust the size of the page to fit my mock-up, which is going to make it a little bit bigger like this so it fits my mock-up. Okay, so that's probably pretty good right there. There is my mock-up, and what I'm going to do is go to the links panel, see letterhead JPEG. I'm going to embed it, embed image, it's embedded. Now I'm going to drag this into my symbol. Got to have a symbol, and I'm going to call this letter, and I'm going to change it to graphic and hit OK. There it is. It's a graphic. I'm going to delete that. Okay, and let's see here what's going on with this. All right, now I'm going to create my shape, and it's going to be wide is 8.5. Just make it 8.5. 8.5. There we go. And the height is 11. Hit OK. There it is. Now let's move it onto the page right about like that. Okay, and again, well, actually, I lost this now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make that edge gray. I don't know why I lost that. Somehow or other I messed up and lost that. But there's my gray back. Okay, so I have my gray and my white. That's important. Select this thing, and go to Effect, go to 3D, and go Extrude and Bevel. And then again, I have numbers. I could drag this thing around. I don't want to do this. I'm going to hit Preview. I don't want to do this. I got numbers. So again, my letterhead on this case is going to be -18. And these numbers are different. These are the only ones that are different. The others were, the two others were the same, but this is a different one. So it's 1826. And I did this because I like the look of it. That's really what it is. And this is 8 instead of 9. Okay, the perspective, as far as the perspective is concerned, again, I'm using 40. Okay, and my extrude depth, it's the same thing with the extrude depth. It's 2. And then if I click 40, there I have the whole thing. Okay, now all I have to do is go to Map Art, and I'm going to make sure I got my surface, and this actually may be the right surface. Let me just see. I think that's the right surface there. Let me click on this, and let me go to Letter. And yeah, you see this one now, on the other hand, is a different surface. So I got to go back to None, and I got to go back to 1, and let me try 1 and see whether that's the surface. Yeah, so for some strange reason, this is something that I simply can't explain to you why this happened. For some strange reason, surface number 1 of the letter is the correct surface. And for some other strange reason, this particular piece wants to go in exactly the way it should go in. So when this happens, don't flip out, but just keep in mind that there are different surfaces, and you're looking for the right surface to put this on. And I think on the other two, it was surface 2. This one is surface 1. So that's the important thing. Shade the artwork, okay? Now, this is going to take a moment because this is a big file. Yeah, there we go, and hit OK, and hit OK, and now I have my letterhead. Now, I'm going to go File, Save it first. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something pretty cool. Hopefully you'll find it cool. All right, I'm going to go File, Save As. Okay. Mockup 3, I'm going to call this letter, and I'm going to change the format of it to Adobe PDF. Okay? Adobe PDF, letter, Adobe PDF, and hit Save. And I'm just going to save it with the default settings. Okay? And I'm going to close it. All right? I'm going to go File, Open. Mockup 1, Open. That's my business card. What I think I'm going to do with the business card is I'm going to reduce the size of my artboard. Make my artboard a little bit smaller, if that's okay with you guys. Make it a little bit smaller. Like about like that's good. And let me come up like this. Whoops, 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 whoops. Come on. I don't want to do that. Okay, here we go. All right, so now I got a smaller artboard like that. Let's go View, Fit Artboard in Window. Let's go View, Zoom out. Zoom out. There we go. Okay, so that's more or less my art. I don't think I need the Appearance panel anymore, and I don't think I need the Symbols panel anymore. If I can close them and close that. Okay, and get this links out of here. All right, so there is my business card, and what I'm going to do with that after I've adjusted this thing and positioned it. Oh, one other thing I want to do, select this thing. I want to put an effect on this. Effect, I want to go Stylize, Drop Shadow. And I'm just going to hit Preview. And that looks good. I'm not even going to modify it. I'm just going to put that drop shadow on to give it a slightly nicer look. I think that just makes it a little bit nicer. Okay? Real simple, just to make it look more like a business card. Now I'm going to go to the File, Save As, and I'm going to come in here and change it from Adobe Illustrator to PDF. And this one I'm going to call Card, C-A-R-D, Card. So I'm saving this. There's my letter, and there's my card, and hit Save. And hit Save PDF, and now I have my card. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go File, Open, and the last one I got to do is Mockup 2, which I believe is my envelope, and is that the envelope? No, it's not. That's not the envelope. It's the card. All right, so let me go back. File, Open. Oh, here it is. Mockup 1, AI. I think that's it. No, damn it. Hold on. Where's the envelope? File, Open. Let me see here. Letterhead, Mockup 3. Hold on. Let me see. Mockup 2. I must have messed up. Okay, so it doesn't matter. File, Open. I have, let's see, where is it? Business card, envelope. What happened? No envelope? Where's my envelope? Card. Oh, I've lost my envelope. I can't find my envelope. Hold on. Where would my envelope be? Did I not save it? I'm sure I saved it. Hold on, let's see here. Envelope mock-up. Here we go. There we go. All right, so I have an envelope. All right, so this is my envelope mock-up. Going to change the artboard on that as well. I'm going to bring this thing in just a little bit like that, and I'm going to bring this one in a little bit like that, and I'm going to bring this up just a little bit like that, and this one down. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. Here we go. Down just a little bit like that. There we go. Okay, so now I have my envelope. I'm going to go File, Save As, and this is going to be my, let's go to Desktop. And let's go to Cards, and let's go to PDF, and this one is going to be Card Letter Envelope, E-N-V-L, Envelope, and it's going to be a PDF, and hit Save, and Save PDF. Okay, that should do it. Now we go in here to my card. Okay, here we go. We're almost done, guys, for tonight. So here's your final submission. There's your final submission. Your business card. That's what it looks like. Your letterhead and your envelope. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to open up Acrobat Pro. Acrobat Pro. Okay. Acrobat Pro. And what you want to do is you want to take your 3 mock-ups, okay, and you want to go to Tools, and you want to create a PDF from multiple files, okay, and you want to combine files. So You're going to go to Tools, Create PDF from multiple files, combine files. Click Next. And then all you have to do is drag the files here. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get my card, and I'm going to hold down the Control key, and I'm going to Shift select my envelope and my letter. And I'm going to drag and drop them in here. And it copies them in. So here is your card, your envelope, and your letter all in here. Now what I think I want to do is I think I want to have my card, my letter, and then my envelope. So if I click on the envelope and carefully just drag it over, I can place it in that order. So I have my card, my letterhead, and my envelope. And all I do is I come up here and I hit Combine, and it combines those three into one PDF. Look at that. Now I'm going to go File, Save As. Okay. And I'm going to save it in Cards. I'm going to save it in Cards. And I'm going to name it. Right now it says Binder 1, but I'm going to name assignment. Now, where I wrote name assignment, you're going to name the assignment in exactly the way that you name your submission, okay? And I hit Save, and it writes it, and I close it, and now if I come in here, where is it? Name assignment. If I double click on this, it opens up. That's what I get. That's what you submit, and it looks professional. There you go. Okay? I actually got through the whole thing. I'm sorry for the mess up as far as the recording goes, but I think we did okay. I think it's basically the same thing as what we did last night, so I feel stoked. Very good. Good luck with the rest of your work. If you guys have any problems or any questions, anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'll talk about it. Thank you, and it was really great having you in the class. I'll see you tonight. We'll do some review on all this tonight, and we'll also do the critiquing. Have a good day.